Hello, my name is Peregrine. Now, sit down and listen, because the straight white man is here to tell you his opinions about diversity. Overwatch is well known and often overly hated on for being one of the most diverse games in the industry, with a roster of characters hailing from all 8 different corners of the cubed world in which we live. It's also well known for its addition of characters with different identities and sexualities, which unfortunately is a contentious topic at the moment. However, Overwatch and Team 4 take a very particular approach to including these identities, which I feel like could be an important foundational part of the bridge in which we build to connect a divided society. The way in which Overwatch depicts their diversity is with a very hands-off approach, barely even mentioning these identities to the point of not really being able to know unless you specifically hunt down the information yourself. A lot of homophobia and transphobia at the moment is focused around the concept of, but they're shoving it down our throats, which roughly translates to their identity or sexuality is taking up too much of the narrative. Now, personally speaking, obviously I disagree with this, and I understand that this is potentially a very offensive opinion. However, a key part of leading someone to accepting something is meeting them where they are, and that is where they are. Now, should queer writers have to do this? Obviously not, but at this moment in time, it looks like something you have to do. Let me give you 2 examples of what I'm talking about here. We're going to go with Soldier 76 and Venture. Soldier 76 is an interesting test case in this kind of diverse writing, because he is written as a man's man and is not shown to be stereotypically gay in any way, thus meaning the players who play him don't notice it until they are told. This essentially caused incongruence within hypermasculine homophobic players who realised that their favourite character was in fact gay, so now they have to come to grips with the fact that they liked a gay character. Now, this might not automatically cure homophobia, but what this does is sow a seed of doubt in their worldview, a small crack in the armour, which is done simply by not making Soldier's sexuality a part of his character identity. Basically, instead of getting, "Hey Queens, I'm Soldier 76, or as I like to be called, Soldier Sucking Dicks," we got, "I'm Soldier 76, I love guns, beer, justice, and men!" Venture is another prime example of this very type of subtle writing choice. Venture's identity as non-binary is never mentioned in game, and as far as I'm aware, not even really mentioned in any type of Overwatch media. Sorry, Venture. Now, to some members of the trans community, this is seen as a downside to Venture because it's not being mentioned, or it's not being challenged. We're not seeing enough about Venture's identity. However, by keeping Venture's non-binary identity out of the character, it makes them more relatable to everyone. And when a character is relatable, they become grounded. And when someone's grounded, you begin to think, me and this person? Maybe we're not so different after all. Relentlessly pointing out someone's identity is quite literally the opposite of normalizing a group of people. No one has ever been normalized by emphasizing their differences. The glory of Venture as a character is that they are an airheaded archaeologist who is headstrong, maybe a little overconfident, and really loves their work. And is also non-binary. See, it's character first, identity second. This type of style does de-emphasize the diversity of the character, which to some could be a problem. By taking the emphasis off the character's identity, it makes the people screaming about shoving it down their throats look like fucking idiots, because they are. You can't say it's being stuffed down your throat if it, factually isn't. It's quite literally information that you would have to look up to find. That's literally the opposite of what they're claiming you're doing. And this also causes the same effect that we mentioned before with Soldier, where transphobic people now have to cope and seethe about the fact that they like this trans character, or they like this game that has a trans character in, and it wasn't pushed down their throat. It destigmatizes the concept and the topic at hand, while also outstretching an arm for people to learn more and discover more what we have in common rather than what separates us. And I think the best part of it all is that the writing style doesn't antagonize ignorance. Put simply, a lot of people labeled bigots in today's world aren't really bad people per se, they just don't understand all this newfangled stuff. Now, to some people, the difference between sex and gender might seem simple, but to other people, this is a really hard thing to wrap your head around. Trust me, I know. 10 years ago, I was an alt-right shitter. I was this kind of transphobic, stuffing it down our throats thing. Only until I started to see characters similar to this did I start to understand these things better, because it met me where I was at the time. When you are in that headspace, it's a lot harder to understand the intricacies. And being called a Nazi for not understanding things does not help your cause if your cause is about raising support for marginalised communities. It creates this attitude of us versus them, which is what you don't want when you're trying to normalise something and bridge a gap. And, you know, that's the reason why I value the way in which Overwatch writes diversity. It focuses more on what we have in common with one another rather than the differences that, well, differentiate between us. Yes, it might be considered shallow by some, and it might be missing some of kind of the root causes or the root issues at hand, and maybe it's a little bit fence city, but maybe that's what some people need, like I did. But, you know, by all means, feel free to disagree. As I said, this is more of an opinion piece, but thank you for watching, and have a good day. And if you don't have a good day, I will be coming for you. I am right outside your door.